Mr. Purtill, you may begin.
Mr. Chairman, ranking members, distinguished members of Congress, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I want to begin by noting that President Trump made an excellent choice when he selected William Marshall to serve as director of the Bureau of Prisons, and I have high hopes he'll succeed in that post. As we've heard, the most immediate challenges he faces are staff retention and recruitment, the degraded condition of BOP facilities, and I would add the increasing cost, the financial cost of incarceration generally. So over the past 10 years, BOP staffing has dropped significantly. Staffing shortages often require substantial use of overtime, including mandatory overtime and the use of augmentation. BOP faces a $3 billion price tag for deferred maintenance, and those repairs are needed across all of its facilities. Staffing shortages and poor facilities undermine employee retention rates and create security and safety issues for staff and inmates alike. These challenges are complicated by the fact that the number of prisoners in BOP facilities and the cost to incarcerate them has risen dramatically over the years. Understanding Congress's efforts to reduce unsustainable levels of federal spending, I'm going to limit my remarks to recommendations that can be implemented under current law using current funding levels. The first thing is to remember that corrections officers are first responders, and I think that we can make better use of them. COs are law enforcement professionals who perform many of the same functions as police officers, but equally important, they are critical to the rehabilitation process and have a direct impact on recidivism. In fact, no one has more insight into an inmate's likelihood of successfully reintegrating into society than the COs who interact with them on a daily basis. COs' experience and insight should help inform public policy, and BOP should incentivize and empower COs to have a stake in the prisoner's rehabilitation, as well as in the security of the facilities. Second, home confinement to free funds up at the BOP. BOP must reduce its per inmate average cost of incarceration while not undermining public safety. I stress that, while not undermining public safety. Recent experience demonstrates that this can be done within certain careful parameters. The 2020 CARES Act allowed federal prisons to serve a portion of their sentence in home confinement. Former Attorney General William Barr set the criteria for home confinement eligibility. It required being in low or minimum security, having a clean misconduct record, no history of violence, sex, or terrorism offenses, a viable reentry plan, a minimum or low-risk score on the BOP's pattern risk assessment tool, and having served a significant portion of their sentence. These criteria allowed a substantial number of prisoners to be moved to home confinement without undermining public safety. In fact, after release from home confinement, those with a CARES assignment had a 3.6% recidivism rate over 1 year, whereas those without a CARES assignment had a 13% recidivism rate. And according to the most recent data available, about 54% of the current federal prison population are classified as minimum or low risk for recidivism by BOP's pattern risk assessment tool. I'm certain that not all of these people meet the CARES Act criteria for home confinement, but many could be placed in home confinement without jeopardizing public safety and thereby realizing a substantial cost savings to the BOP. Third, close outdated and dilapidated BOP facilities. BOP needs to review its physical footprint, as we've heard. Since modernizing any federal operation often runs up against political pressures, Unify.us would recommend forming a commission patterned after the DoD Base Realignment and Closure Commission to review BOP's facilities requirements and to right-size the Bureau after accounting for its staffing and its budgetary needs. This would free up revenues for maintenance and modernization of BOP's remaining facilities. Beyond cost savings, there is some evidence that this could also help reduce recidivism. Evidence from Colombian prison construction suggests that prisoners that were quasi-randomly assigned to newer and therefore slightly better prisons were up to 36% less likely to recidivate. Fourth, continue implementation of the First Step Act. During President Trump's first administration, he championed supporting successful reentry and supporting law enforcement with passage of the First Step Act. Through its oversight function, Congress should continue to ensure that BOP expands recidivism reduction programming and that eligible individuals receive appropriate FSA incentives. Also, BOP should especially focus on increasing access to evidence-based recidivism reduction programs. In closing, By improving facilities, by improving respect for and the resources available to corrections officers, and by safely transitioning inmates least likely to commit new crimes back into society, BOP, Congress, and the Trump administration can go a long way towards solving our corrections crisis while ensuring public safety. Thank you very much. I look forward to answering your questions.